From the day me a born and grow, me always want to be a bad man. Cause bad man thing bigger than the president.
Punk! Punk, okay. Is this snare drum alright for punk?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mr. Pitiful podcast. I'm your boss podcaster, Mr. Pitiful.
Somebody's a Rasta!
Coming at you live and direct from Babylon Court in Hollywood, California. Welcome.
What kind of man this? Which kind of work you do?
So if you're new to the Mr. Pitiful podcast, basically what I do here is I just tell true stories about my life. And here we go. So how did a dorky little skinny college kid like me end up working for the Mafia? Well, I'll tell you. So to take you back, I'm an LA kid, and I picked up my whole life at like 19 years old and moved out to Orlando, Florida, to go to Full Sail, the multimedia school. And my friends were like warning me. They were scared for me. They did not want me to go. And they're like, bro, be careful out there. Like, Florida's crazy. People don't mess around out there. And I was kind of like, man, we're from LA, man. Like, what could Florida really be like? So I get out there and I start school and all of that. And one thing to know about Full Sail is it's a 24-hour school, right? So you have classes at 1 a.m., you have classes at 5 a.m. Your schedule changes around a lot. So the point being is it's kind of hard to find a job that will help schedule around such a crazy schedule and all of that. So Full Sail, when you go there, they recommend you don't even work. And they said if you do work, don't work more than 20 hours a week. Well, I needed to work about 30 hours a week to, survive out there. So I was looking for work, and there was really not much in the way of internet back then. So I'm thumbing through the Orlando Weekly, the local newspaper one day, and I see this ad in the employment section that catches my eye. And to paraphrase, it said something to the effect of, office job, telemarketing job, perfect for college students, flexible schedule, part-time, full-time, whatever. And it's in the next town over, so it looks good to me. So I'm like, well, let me go check this out and see what's going on. So I went over there and I applied in person. And I walked in and everything looked above the board. Everything looked legit, So I see a bunch of kids in there my age. There's office equipment and phones and, kind of cubicles, and everybody seems to be working, and, everybody looks happy for the most part. They got, some tunes on the radio. So I go and I check in with the receptionist, and she's this cute little, Cuban girl. I mean, she was teeny tiny. She must have been 97 pounds. And I was like, hey, I'm applying for the job in the Orlando Weekly. And she goes, yeah, go ahead and kick back. I'll send, the boss man out. And incidentally, the boss man was her boyfriend. And this motherfucker comes out, and he is a monster. I mean, he's got to be at least 6 foot tall, built like an absolute brick shit house, veins popping everywhere. I mean, his biceps were like the size of my freaking thighs. I couldn't believe how big this dude was. Big old scary looking dude walks out, and he actually turns out to be a pretty nice guy. And we have a brief chat, and he decides that I'm the right fit for this job, and they're happy to work around my schedule at Full Sail. It kind of wasn't their first rodeo dealing with Full Sail students, so he's like, welcome aboard. And they put me to work right there immediately. Usually in my experience, you'll have the interview, you'll leave, and then a couple days later, they follow up with you. They pretty much had me fill out the paperwork and put me to work straight away. So I'm like, cool. Did I realize or have any, idea that I was basically taking a job with the Mafia? None whatsoever. Had zero idea I was about to get into some scary stuff with these people. So basically what they did is they sat me down in a cubicle with a phone and a big stack of papers. And these papers had a bunch of names and phone numbers on them. And, okay, listen, I know this sounds bad, okay? I was 19 years old. I was very naive and idealistic, so I didn't realize what I was doing or getting into. But basically, they gave me this big old list of names and telephone numbers and said, go through this list, call each of these numbers, and here's a script we want you to read. And the script basically was like, hey, I'm calling from the such and such lottery club, and you've won a bunch of lottery tickets, and in order for me to send them to you, I need your credit card number to cover the shipping and handling, and then we'll send that right over. So basically what this was a credit card scam. So not only are they getting pinged on the $25 for the shipping and handling, but obviously it's some form of identity theft. And if I had for 1 second imagine that this is what I was up to. I would never have taken this job, but I really needed a job. It looked legit, at least at first. I didn't know any better. So I pick up the phone and start dialing. And I got, a credit card number, like probably my 4th or 5th phone call. So they were super happy with me. To be completely fair and to be completely honest, I was never particularly great at this job. So thank God I didn't scam too many people. But I got just enough credit card numbers to not get fired. So I maybe got 1 or 2 per shift, if that, and that was enough to keep my head above water. So basically that was my routine. I walked in, just clocked in, did my little dialing the phone numbers, reading my little script, and then I'd, go to school or go home and study or whatever. But after a while, I started to notice things were kind of weird. Now, the main operation was where I worked. There was about, I'd say 15 or 20 of us kids in the front office at any given time dialing the phones and trying to get these credit card numbers, okay? But there was this dude who worked in the back. His name was Kevin. And it was very, very secretive what Kevin was doing back there. And to give you an idea, and keep in mind this was a different time, people, Kevin didn't really look employable, okay? He had like a crazy haircut. He had like multiple facial piercings. He had multiple visible tattoos. Guy dressed like, kind of a scumbag. Now, keep in mind, this was a different time. Back in my day, tattoos and colored hair and piercings and stuff meant something. I mean, you were like sending a message to people. And this didn't really make you employable. Like, I even remember, like, I had long hair kind of towards the end of high school and was looking for a job. And everybody was on my case about, like, your hair is too long, you're never going to get a job. So I know it's a different time. I mean, shit. I work in Aspen now, and there's people with, like, neck and hand tattoos and stuff. And I never would have thought in a million years you could get a job looking like that in a posh ski resort, but I digress. But so this Kevin guy was in the back doing God knows what, looking like total shit. And the rumor was he was pulling like 5 G's a day back there. And you couldn't help but wonder, like, what is he doing back there? And he's pulling that much money. Now, $5,000 a day, even today, is crazy. Imagine what it was like in like 1996 to pull down money like that. I mean, it was just like an unthinkable amount of money. But as time went on, I started kind of just noticing like things were kind of weird. I don't know. My spidey sense was going off, and I just observed little weird things here and there. One of the big things I started to notice, though, was all these phone numbers I was dialing and all these people I was speaking with, they were all elderly. And I think this was by design. I think this was on purpose. And it seemed like it was almost exploiting these people's loneliness. They're home in their trailer watching TV or something, and the phone rings, and here's a friendly voice on the other end. Oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. Calling from Florida. Do you want to buy some lottery tickets? And here's also maybe a way out of their poverty. None of these people sounded particularly wealthy. So they take a chance and they buy these lottery tickets from us. After a while, though, they hired 2 other guys to work in the back with Kevin. And these guys look like dirtbags, too. And it was maddening to think that these guys who look completely unemployable are pulling like 5 G's a day, if that's even really what they were pulling. But that was the rumor. But one of the things that really tipped me off about how something may be weird with the place I work is one night I had to go to the bathroom. And the bathrooms, the way it worked in this business park is there wasn't like individual bathrooms in each, like business, right? There was like a master key that we took off the wall, and we walked like down a hallway, and there was like a bathroom for like the whole building. And I walked in there, and one of the dudes from the back, I heard him doing a bunch of sniffing noises. And I walk in, and he's got like watery eyes, and he's like trying to put his septum ring back in real quick.
This is cocaine speaking.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, did I just catch this dude like doing speed or coke or something? Like, what the hell was that? I mean, I'd seen people do drugs before, but wasn't really around it as much as you might think. So I remember thinking, like, that's kind of weird. Like, did that guy literally just do some bumps and he's just going to like go back to work and, do whatever he does back there? So I thought that was a little weird. So now, the other thing about the office I worked in, and I couldn't help but notice that everybody was Cuban, by the way, is there was like this kind of pretty boy that would run around from time to time. He'd come in. He always looked anxious. He always looked annoyed. He always like moved with alacrity and acted like, he was in a hurry. And he'd pop in and just kind of like run around, and he'd leave. And he never really was like friendly. He never really introduced himself. We never really knew who this guy was. Well, one day I'm on the phone, and these are the old school like analog landlines, right? And every so often you'd get a bad connection with these landlines, you know. So in other words, it's hard to hear the people on the end of the phone. But this was kind of a unique bad connection in that, I don't know the technical word, crosstalk or something, but basically whatever sounds were going into the mouthpiece of the phone, like 85 milliseconds later would come out the earpiece. So like while I'm talking and trying to pitch these lottery tickets, I'm hearing my own voice back in my ear. And the lady I'm speaking to, English is definitely not her first language, so I'm already having trouble communicating with her as it is. But it's also hard because I'm hearing my own voice slapping back in my ear. And furthermore, a couple of the dudes in the office are like playing grab ass and carrying on and making a bunch of noise. And all that noise is going into the mouthpiece and coming out through the earpiece. And it's making me impossible to make the sale on this call. So I put the lady on hold real quick and I just said like, hey guys, can you do me a favor and shut up for 2 seconds, please? And I got back on the phone and I could just feel somebody like looming over me, like standing over me like a chicken hawk or something. And when I hung up the phone, all I hear is this, you talking to me? Are you fucking talking to me? And I look up and it's the pretty boy. And I was like, huh? Like what? It's like, are you fucking talking to me? Like, did you just tell me to shut up? I was like, listen, bro, I don't know who you are, but I'm on the phone trying to make sales for y'all, and it's kind of hard to do that with y'all carrying on like this. So I apologize, but I'm just trying to make you money, man. And yeah, well, I'm fucking Tommy, and I fucking run this operation, and you better not be fucking talking to me and all this shit. And I was just like, bro, I'm trying to make you money. Like, you know, this isn't a professional environment, you know, if you guys are going to carry on like that. So it was literally like that scene in Goodfellas.
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny.
It was exactly like that. I'm sitting there going, whoa, like, I've only had a few jobs in my life, but I've never dealt with anything like that. And so I'm starting to notice like there's some weird stuff going on and that this job may not be exactly above the board. And I was so naive. Like, I just thought like if you had a job, it was legit. I thought that was the only thing out there. I didn't realize there were like criminal enterprises that would hire, you know, naive people. So long and short of it, I'm working for the Cuban mob. And how did I actually find this out for sure? Well, I'll tell you. So I was at a party one night in my apartment complex. I had this neighbor who had a couple roommates, and they probably threw about one party a month. So I'm over there chilling with these dudes, and I'm kind of like passing the bong around, and somehow the conversation got into like motorcycles, because I was really into motorcycles back then. And one of the roommates starts telling me this story about this motorcycle his buddy just bought. It was like, oh, hey, bro, you should see the brand new Ninja that my buddy Kevin just got. Now, back then, Ninjas were like the bike to have. It was like what everybody wanted. He starts telling me all about this bike. Like, yeah, bro, he went in there and paid cash and picked it up off the showroom floor, but he had to wait a week or two because he got so many customizations done, but like he got it like lowered and he got like graphics on it and the fairing and upgraded this and upgraded that. And I remember thinking, I know a dude named Kevin with a brand new Ninja just like that. And as he goes on, I realize he's talking about the dude I work with, and he's like, yeah, bro, he's like, you should see my buddy. Like, he's got the best job in the world, man. He can show up to work dressed how he wants, looking how he wants. He pulls like 5 G's a day, like trafficking coke for the mafia. And they have all these like kids in the front, like working on these like credit card scams, but he's in the back, like brokering these cocaine deals and, you know, this and that. And I'm sitting there going, shit, man, this is where I freaking work. And I'm keeping my mouth shut and not like letting on that I work there, and he's just like spilling all the tea, just like details, denominations, and I realized what those dudes were doing in the back was brokering cocaine deals. So I'm sitting there thinking, great, I work for a credit card scam and a drug front for the Cuban Mafia. Fan-fucking-tastic. Okay, what do I do now? So the last thing I can ever do is let on that I know anything about this. But I'm also torn because I really need this job, but there's no way I'm going to keep this up for obvious reasons. So I had had a nervous breakdown about 3 or 4 months before. So what I decided to do, and the company didn't know this, I decided to just pretend like I had a nervous breakdown. And I kind of knew what the symptoms and stuff were because I had just gone through it. So I basically called them one day and said, guys, I'm in the hospital. I've had a nervous breakdown. I'm not going to be able to come in anymore. So, but there was no direct deposits or anything back then. You had to get your checks by hand. So I went in there like the next Friday, and Big Man was in there, and I walk in to get my check, and he's like, oh, bro, you don't look good. Like, you know, here's your check, like take care of yourself. And I got out of there, thank God, without them ever knowing that I know. Now, a significant problem came up come springtime because it's time to file your taxes. Well, I had all my W-2s and everything except for from this mafia job. So I'm in there with the dude from like H&R Block, and he's like, hey, like, you know, can you explain this like income or whatever? And I'm like, and I didn't really want to get into like any details. So I just told him, well, let me see if I can get the W-2 because I don't work there anymore. So I drove by the old office building hoping I could get the tax paperwork. And not only was the building shut down and like chained up, but there was all these like subpoenas. I don't know the word. I guess subpoena maybe from the sheriff talking about if you know anything about this business or have any vested interest in this business, please call this number. So I went back to the tax man and I said, yo, dude, the place got shut down. Looks like it got raided. It is out of business. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to get you these W-2s. The best I can do is like paycheck stubs because I kept all those, thank God. So I turned in my paycheck stubs and my tax thing went through. I never got audited or anything, thank God. But the upside to working in this business, though, is it gave me some phone skills. So I ended up applying for a job at 1-800-Flowers and getting hired. And I was able to leverage the skills I had picked up at the Mafia job to be successful with my job at 1-800-Flowers. So, yep, your boy Mr. Pitiful worked for the Cuban Mafia. Crazy, right? So if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. I talk a lot about my life in the music business, not working for the Mafia, haha. And if you like what I'm doing, like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in again for Mr. Pitiful. I'm your boss podcaster. Peace.